Hello there, this is Mrs. Nakayama, and we are doing 1.4 linear functions and slope, take 2. The positive thing about being take 2 is usually shorter than take 1. So the objectives will cover all of this, y'all, you have done before. Nothing in here is new. So it's a quick refresher course. First off, you're going to calculate a line's slope. Then you're going to write the point slope form of the equation of a line. Write and graph the slope-intercept form of the equation of a line. Graph horizontal and vertical lines. Recognize and use the general form of a line's equation, and then use intercepts to graph the general form of a line's equation. So first off, to refresh your memory, the definition of slope, the steepness of a line, is change in y over the change in x. Or you might know it, remember it as rise over run. And then, of course, we have the formula, subtract the y's, subtract the x's. Y's on top, rise over run. Shorter way of writing the formula is just change in y over change in x. Okay? So, simple, straightforward example of what you have to do. I will encourage you to write your work down when you do your homework so that you'll do it on the mastery checks and on your test, because if you make any kind of error, it's easier to give you partial credit. So when you write that down, m equals, subtract the y's. The y's go on top. It does not matter which one you start with. I'm going to start with 5 minus, and then I've got a negative number, so I'm putting parentheses around it. Now, the x that goes with the 5 has to be underneath, and that, of course, is -1 minus a 4. And, y'all, I put the minus, and I keep the minus in there so that it just helps you remember the formula. So I would encourage you to do that and not write 5 plus 2. Again, just reminding you and putting it in your brain how you calculate that formula. So m equals -7/5. Now, a lot of people asked me this last time. I get this question every year, so I'm going to ask you. I wrote -7/5. Is that the same thing as -7 over 5, or 7 over -5, or -7 over -5? On a piece of paper, if you'll write which, if any of these are the same as this one, and you get it correct, I'll give you a piece of candy. Okay? On a piece of paper and hand it to me. Okay, next, point slope form of the equation of the line. Right here, y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Now, I'm going to tell you where this came from, because I think if you know where it comes from, it will help you remember it. And some people think it just looks complicated. So, first off, if you start with the slope formula that we just had, you've got the change in y over the change in x. And if you multiply both sides by our denominator, you're in essence moving this to the other side of the equation, which then makes it look like y sub 2 minus y sub 1 equals m times x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Well, just get rid of the 2's, and then you have the same equation that you can see up here. So try to remember it by just saying, oh, that's the slope formula, and I just moved the bottom to the other side. Okay? So here's an example of what you have to be able to do. Write an equation in point slope form for the line with a slope of 6 that passes through the point 2, -5. Then solve the equation for y. So to start off with, I'm going to have y minus that -5 that I'm going to put in parentheses equals the slope, which is 6, times x minus 2, which is not negative, so I'm not putting in parentheses. Okay, that's the answer to the first part, y'all. Now, then solve it for y. So to solve it for y, I'm going to simplify that left side, get rid of the parentheses on the left and the right. So that's going to be y plus 5 equals 6x minus 12. And then I've got to solve it for y, so I'm going to subtract y from both sides, and that's going to give me 6x minus 17. So on this first part, that's your point slope form, and this is my solving it for y. Okay, this is, I don't know if y'all can tell, but that was a lot easier to answer. If all I have to do is give it in point slope form, that was way easier than this. than solving it for y. But you do have to know how to do both because, of course, this second one where I solved for y is called what you're very familiar with, the slope-intercept form of a line. Okay, we've got a slope of m, y-intercept of b, means I've got y equals mx plus b. So here is how you graph it. Graph the linear function. Okay, remember when we're graphing, we start actually with a point, and that point's the y-intercept, which in this case is 1, because that's what b is. Remember, this is like y right here. What we have here is like y equals mx plus b. So b is 1. And that correlates to the point 0, 1. I mean, yes, it's where it crosses the y-axis, but at some point in your life, you're going to forget that that means that if it's a y-intercept, then the other coordinate is 0. Okay? The second part, we find the slope, which is the coefficient of x. In this case, is 3/5, and that is your rise over your run. So here's our graph. I started at 1. And then I went up 3 and over 5. You could also go down 3 and over 5 to plot that. Okay, special cases of lines. We have a horizontal line. Horizontal line has the equation of y equals some number. And if y equals a number, it's going to cross the y-axis and be parallel to the x-axis. So the slope of this horizontal line is easy to walk on. There's no slope. Well, I don't want to say no slope. It's a slope of 0. Okay? It's just not difficult. It's easy to walk on. A vertical line, on the other hand, a vertical line, all right, its slope is undefined because think about walking on that. So the horizontal line is an easy line to walk on. It has a slope of 0, undefined. You're not going to be walking on that line unless you have some kind of assistance. Now, what is the equation of that vertical line? It is x equals a number. It crosses the x-axis and is parallel to the y-axis. So I'm just trying to give you some tips so that you can easily remember these when you have to do your homework and graph these things. Okay, general form of line. This might be new a little bit. The general form of line is ax plus by plus c equals 0. And you might think, wait, I've done that before. But what you really did was something called standard form, where it wasn't equal to 0, it was equal to c. So they are very similar, but it's just whether it's equal to c is going to change according to what that form is called. Okay, but here's our last example. Using the intercepts to graph a linear equation. So this one is in general form, and I would encourage you to put it in standard form, because when you put it in standard form, 3x minus 2y equals 6, and it's telling you to graph using the x-intercepts, because that is the easiest way to graph this line, okay? And when you're using intercepts, that means that one coordinate is 0. Either x is 0 or y is 0. And when you figure this out, this is how easy it is. And I'm telling y'all, when people try to take this and solve it for y, they mess up. But when they do it this way, they don't usually mess up. So watch what you do. If I'm looking, if I know that x is 0 in this first ordered pair, that says x is 0. Well, if x is 0, then it goes away from the equation. So y has to be -3 to make it true. Okay? And on the next one, y is 0, so I get rid of the y part, and that makes x equal to 2. So I have now easily found the x and y intercept, and therefore now it's easy to graph, because all I have to do is plot 2, 0, and plot 0, -3, and graph it. And I will tell you right now in my lab math, if it tells you graph using the intercepts and you do not plot these 2 points, it will count it wrong. That's how it's checking the method that you use to graph the equation. So if you want it to count it right, make sure you read the directions, find the intercepts, and plot those 2 points with your graphing tool. Okay, I hope y'all found that very simple, quick, easy review. Make sure to write down what you need to know to master these concepts. Thanks for watching, and y'all have a great day.